Hey, it's Hillary. Join me for a helpful and hopeful chat about mental health in our community. So grab a cup of coffee or tea. This is Wedgwood's Coffee Break Conversation. Welcome back. I am super excited for today's conversation with truly a staple in the West Michigan community, Maranda. Thank you so much for joining me today, Maranda.
Thank you for having me. I love it. When I got your call to come in, I was so excited because usually I'm on the other side of this. So it's going to be a little challenging. I'll try not to talk too much, but thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So for those who might not be familiar, which I imagine there's not too many people who aren't familiar with the staple that is Maranda, can you describe a little bit what you do and what your role is here in West Michigan?
I have been incredibly blessed. I'm going into my 40th year, but I'm young. But I've just being a voice for kids and families in West Michigan and doing that on a very public platform with local media. So whether it's been radio, television, digital, print, just always having a place in a very noisy space to say, how are we doing with our kids? How are we doing with our families? And empowering parents, providing entertainment, information, and education on things they need to help them through the journey.
Mm-hmm. What I love about how you approach it is it's a community effort. You have partners, long-term partners, Wedgwood being one of them, and we're so grateful for you that you utilize other organizations' strengths and kind of their own platforms to come together and do the most good through your work.
You know, that's the best part of the job. I love that I have this platform currently with Wood TV and with iHeartRadio and, of course, all the social channels that I can say, all right, I'm not an expert on anything, but I love to learn about things and I love to give people what they need. And if I can find those experts, which are a great team of partners, we have about 25, the best of the best organizations in West Michigan, and I can pull on their expertise and give them a place to share what they do and magnify that, that's a win. I get such great energy out of that.
So why are kids and families so important to you?
A long time ago, I had to make a decision in my career. Was I going to be a news person or not? And I decided news wasn't for me, but I knew there was something out there. And I started working with kids and just doing a kids show on a Tuesday night just for fun. And man, kids are honest. They are transparent. They don't let you get away with anything. And I had so much fun. And I was like, this is me. These are my people. And so it kind of started there and it has just continued to evolve because kids grow up, they become parents, they still relate and want to come to you and trust you. So we kind of built this beautiful thing that we can talk to kids and we can talk to their parents and now grandparents as well.
That's so cool. And you've been really engaged with the community for your entire career. And so I'm sure you notice a lot of trends of what kids are into, what families are focused on, and how those trends have shifted over the years. What are some of the big changes you've noticed over the years?
Well, I always like the cultural things. So, we went from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers to Pokemon. And, we just continue to evolve with that. And I love to see how entertainment that is being provided for our children has evolved. And now we've kind of gotten away from all of those specifically for kids kind of things. And kids are merged right into everything that adults live.
Oh, yeah.
And with that comes a lot of challenges. So the language kids use, the situations they see and experience. I don't want to sound old and be like, kids are growing up fast, but you know what? Kids are growing up fast.
Yeah.
When our kids are exposed to things as 5-year-olds that maybe they didn't see until they were 10, thanks to the internet and everything else, it changes a child. So I think deep down innately, kids are kids. They want to play. They want to hang out. They want to be loved. They want to be known. But the world around them is shaping them and pushing them a lot faster than it ever has. And I think that's a really big change. I also have, as you have seen here at Wedgwood, and you've been so good at helping me learn more about it, our kids are under stress and emotional anxiety. And a lot of us adults are like, what is going on? What's wrong? What's happening?
Yeah.
And it's definitely shifting.
I've been able to witness how you lead the way in adjusting your programming to reach kids and families based on these culture shifts and kind of where the world is at. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach finding relevant ways to effectively connect with kids and families?
I listen to them. I watch them.
Mm.
When I see, if we go out on a shoot, which is a taping,
Mm.
let's say I'm standing at a family fun place in West Michigan, and usually kids will run up to the camera and, they'll be shy, they'll be weird about it. One thing that has changed, every kid wants to be a YouTube star.
Mhm.
So they are very gregarious. They want to laugh. They want to talk. They want to pose. They want to give it all to you.
Mhm.
But then you want to start to talk to them about serious business. Closed down, not interested. I want to be goofy. I want to be wild and weird. I
Oh.
have not had a chance as a child to really process who I am. I
Mm.
am who I think you want me to be when the camera's on.
Mm.
So if we can sit down, and I'm so excited, I just got some information from one of our great partners, Kent ISD. And they said, do you want to sit down with a group of 14-year-old girls and talk about what it's like to go into high school in 2024?
Ooh.
Yes, yes, yes. That gets me so excited
Yeah.
because we think we know what it's like. We do not know what it's like. And the only way to find out what it's really like is to talk to kids themselves. And
Mhm.
so how do I gather content? How do I get information or things that I really want? I watch, I listen, and if I can't find it, I talk to kids. Any taping we go out on, if I'm at a high school track meet doing a story and I get 4 kids on the sidelines who are just sort of hanging out, I want to say, like, what's it really like at your school? Is vaping real? What are you being pressured to do right now? How influenced are you by TikTok? What are you watching? What are you doing? Who are you following? And man, the floodgates open. And then I got
Mhm.
more content than I could ever imagine.
Yeah. I was talking with one of our prevention specialists earlier, and she talked about how one of the big things she sees with kids is they just want to be heard.
They do.
And so that there is a cool adult that wants to listen to them and hear what they have to say is so important and impactful, and then really shapes how you can tell their story.
I like that idea of kids want to be heard. I also believe kids want to be known. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I go back to I'm talking to my phone all the time. I'm laying in my bed talking to my phone. I am in the kitchen talking to my phone. I'm showing you my cool life outside. None of those truly are who I am. So
Mm.
I feel like I'm being heard, but I'm not getting anything back.
Yeah.
So when an adult sits with a kid and is like, "How's it going? What's happening? What are you feeling? What are you thinking?" That's a whole new territory.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of those things where kids are like, I didn't even know I was hungry for that. Right now, I'm seeing this huge, terrifying trend where our kids are lonely.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter what social economic group you're from, what age you are. I think often as adults, we feel like, oh, they've got so many friends online and they're chatting all the time, text messages rolling in 24/7. My kid is popular and doing good. And I'm like, who are they really talking to? Who's really listening to them? Who's really noticing that they are a human with interests and with heartaches and with desires? If they don't have those real people in their life, whether it's their grandma, their cousin, their aunt, their best friend, our kids are lonely.
Mm-hmm. Constant communication doesn't always mean meaningful communication.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And I think you talked a little bit about but how when kids are always putting themselves out on social media but never like getting the validation or the communication in return, that I think increases the loneliness because they're just shouting into a void almost.
Exactly. And I think we're all guilty of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know if I post something that I think is awesome and I get less than adequate likes,
Mm-hmm.
I take that personal.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop it. I know it's a game. I know it's an algorithm thing, but it doesn't matter. It still impacts how I feel about myself. Or I'm like, what's wrong with that post? What did I do wrong? Did I not have the right photo? Did I not have the right caption? Didn't I tag the right people?
Mm-hmm.
And I go back and just like labor over it. And I mean, I'm trying to do 4 posts a day on Facebook and 1 post a day on Instagram. And I've got this big schedule in my brain. And the reality is nobody cares but me.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it can feel really vulnerable when you're putting something out there on social media. I know from my own perspective, it feels a little like this is a piece of me that I'm willing to share with you. And so when nobody responds, it can feel like a personal attack, but really it's just, the algorithm has kept it from people's eyes. But And for a kid whose brain is still developing and they're trying to figure out what relationships look like, that can be even more detrimental. And you've launched this really cool initiative that helps address some of the challenges that kids are facing, this loneliness and stress, and provides support for caregivers. And it's called How's It Really Going? Can you talk about what led to the creation of this and your vision for it?
Well, for about the past probably 7 years, I've heard conversations with some of our finest organizations in town. Everyone's talking about kids and mental health. And no matter where I go, kids are off the charts with anxiety. We're overwhelmed at our organizations that provide therapy. And so I hear that from organizations. And then I'll be out on a segment taping, and I'll have a CEO that we get done with an interview, and they'll stop and be like, hey, Miranda, is it normal for my 14-year-old to feel suicidal? Because my wife and I are worried, but we don't know if they're playing games. And I'm like, wow, well, it's not normal, and you need to get your child some help, have some conversation. And then I'll go to the next place, and I'll have a mom tell me, my 7-year-old doesn't want to go to school anymore. They're afraid to leave their bedroom. And so our family has just canceled our camping trip because this kid is like off the charts with anxiety. And I'm seeing it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you do. Our kids are struggling. And so I see these organizations who have all these great services, and I see these families in real life that just don't know how to connect with the resources. So I thought, you know what? The one thing that we know how to do in my business is I know how to communicate messages and be a connector with the information and the people looking for the information. So I thought, you know what? Let's just build a digital platform, a digital warehouse of all of the rich, deep content that my great partners like Wedgwood have been putting together for years, and put it all in one place. And then let's use the power of the medium of Wood TV8 to be on air and say, don't just ask, how's it going? Ask, how's it really going? And then really listen. And if you don't know how to get the conversation started, come to our website. We've got tabs where get that conversation started with your 4-year-old, get that conversation started with your 16-year-old. Kid being bullied at school, you're not alone. Here's the resources. Saying, I need bilingual information so I can connect with my kids and their caregivers. I want to make sure we're doing this right. We've got a section on the website for that. And as things come about, we're just going to keep piling that website full and keep driving people to that one source that then links back to all of the great resources in this town. It's been really exciting to see. Anyone I talk to about it is like, I got to check that out. What's that address again? And I'm like, woodtv.com/mental health. Find it. And my goal is these next 6 months to really focus on this. And then I think we can take our hands off the wheel and let this thing just live, because I want eventually for people to know that mental health and our children and adolescents, it's a part of our everyday life. And we have to be on it for our kids' sake.
And I love that it's a one-stop shop kind of thing, because if you are a person who is struggling and kind of in crisis, West Michigan is full of great resources, but when you're in that moment, you don't know where to go. It's so overwhelming. But if you know Miranda has everything on the website and you can just go there and kind of click through based on what you need, what a great way to help people when things feel like it's too much.
I like to say Miranda has friends who know everything. I can make that connection for you.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We were talking about this at Wood TV. We had a full team together when I'm laying out this vision. And almost every person who was in that team came up to me after that meeting one-on-one and wanted to do these side conversations about their personal story with mental health struggles. And in particular, one of our digital people was like, hey, man, I've been wanting to talk to you about what's out there for bullying, but my 12-year-old has been bullied on the bus. We've gone to the school. I don't know if I should call the cops. I don't know how far to go with this. We've talked to the other parent. We were getting nowhere, but my kid is starting to be traumatized and we need help. And the first thing I did was just gave him a huge hug. And I'm like, dude, first of all, you are not alone. And you know what? My heart breaks for your child, but my heart breaks for the parents living through it, for the teachers who are trying to make it right and you don't have the resources. And when I can say, you know what? I have friends at places like Wedgwood who would love to meet with your kid. They'd love to meet with your family, and we can figure this out. We might not be able to solve the bullying problem, but we're going to help you get the tools you need to combat that feeling of isolation and everything else that goes with that bullying feeling. So that's empowering to me. That's what really got me excited about the project of how's it really going.
And just to kind of add to that story you were just sharing, that when you've got resources about like, is your kid being bullied, or, a resource on my kid is dealing with vaping, whatever, it also shows that you're not the only one dealing with it. Other people need these resources too. And so you're not alone. And that feeling of isolation, I think, can really amplify things. And just knowing that there's hope and you're not alone can bring like sometimes small, but a sense of peace, like, okay, we're not losing it. Like, we're going to be all right.
Exactly. And, we all know what it's like. It's, sometimes kids are just kids. So you're like, my kid is being crazy right now, but I think it's just like a phase. And so you're not going to sit down with your sister and confide this kid's off the rails. Usually we don't do that until the kid is really off the rails. So let's talk about prevention. What are some key things that parents can do? And, I sit down with Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. I'm interviewing this expert in the field of behavioral health. And she said, do you realize that mental health can be impacted by nutrition? I'm like, what? And she's like, the foods that we are feeding our kids impact how they think and how they feel.
Wow.
Parents need to know the right foods. And I'm like, I need to know the right foods because I could use that.
Yeah.
Then she's like, you know what? Sleep. And when we move into these summer schedules where sleep is all over the place, of course, we're going to see behavioral issues.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't anybody talk about that? So it's those practical things that I think, I really hope that parents are at a point where they can say, you know what, I do have a couple of questions. I don't know if my child needs therapy, but I do know I need a little bit of help. So at 10 o'clock after the kids are in bed, you can sit at the laptop and you can start coming to this website and really pawing through all the information and being like, ooh, that's a good story. I didn't know this. I saw this. This is a community event we can go together as a family. These are 3 questions I'm going to ask my kid tomorrow while we're driving down the road. I mean, we just want to give you tips.
Yeah.
And then the places to go for help. And I think that's really what people are looking for right now.
So you mentioned that a lot of what you do comes from utilizing the expertise of the organizations and businesses in our community. Why do you think it's important for these businesses and organizations and all of us to come together and invest in addressing the challenges that are facing kids and families?
Our kids need us. Kids can come off really confident. Thanks to TikTok and Instagram, kids know more than we do about a lot of topics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of intimidating. And usually when we're going to bring it up, they're going to fight us. They're going to make us feel like we're dumb. And it's easier to just not get into it. I'm saying, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Because our kids truly do want us to talk to them, to pry a little bit. I always think about putting that closed door on the bedroom. When a kid goes in and slams that door, it's easy as a parent to be like, I've had enough of that. And you turn your back and you stomp away and say, he can sit in there and stew on it for a while. Okay. But then what? It's not come down for dinner. It's all good. It's like, you know what? No, let's talk about this thing. Let's see what's really going on. What's bubbling? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Who's bugging you? What can I do to help? I don't want to be in the way, but I'm on your team, man. I am on your team. And I think our kids need to know that, that, there's a group of people around them that love them, that have expectations for them, and that want them to win. But we also want them to develop into people who care about others, who have empathy, who have good insights and wisdom. So it's not just smoothing it over and pretending it didn't happen. It's like, let them dig in a little bit. Let them really process who they are and how they're going to handle a situation to become the person they were created to become.
They want to be heard and they want to be known.
They do, don't we all?
And it's cliche, but I suppose it's cliche for a reason that kids are our future. And if we have kids who don't know how to process their emotions well, what does that mean for our community when they're the ones in charge?
Exactly. And I can't say this enough, and I'm guilty, so it's hard to say this, but I have 2 daughters of my own, but you know what? Modeling is what it's all about.
Mhm.
And if we have downtime in our family life and sitting on our phones is what we all do, that's okay for about 10 minutes. But think about what message that sends our kids.
Mhm. Mhm.
My news feed's a little more important than you are right now.
Right.
Give me just a second.
Yeah.
And we're scrolling and we're texting and we're all wrapped up in this digital world. And you have your little humans sitting right across from you and they're on their screen. Man, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I know, a lot of people will be like, I can't get my kid to stop gaming. I know it's hard. But you know what? If you set that game up on the table, you put that Monopoly game out and said, we're going old school. I need 1 hour of your time. Get out here. It's
Mhm.
you and me against your brother and your cousin. I say game on.
Mm.
What kid isn't going to go for it after a little bit of coaxing?
Right.
Or if you say, we've got the bikes ready to go and we're just going to bike for 10 minutes. Shut the game off. Let's go. No, come on, let's go. Maybe ice cream afterwards. Get out there, challenge your kids to do some stuff deep down. They really want to spend time with you.
Mhm.
I do surveys a lot with kids. What's the number one thing you want? And I'm always thinking, what's the big prize a kid wants to win or a place a kid wants to go? Hands down, if they really are serious, they'll say, I just want to spend more time with my parents.
Mm.
And that puts a lot of pressure on parents. That
Mhm.
means they got to spend time with their kids.
Yeah.
And it's not always running. It's not being like, well, we don't have the money to go anywhere. You know what? That's not what your kid said. Your
Mhm.
kid said they want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And that might mean cooking dinner together. That might mean going for a walk. That might mean cleaning out the closet. It might mean going to visit grandma. It might mean just being. That's what our kids want.
Mhm. Mhm. I was talking to one of our therapists a while ago about tips for how to spend more meaningful time with kids. Because lives are busy, and unfortunately, we as adults also, we have a lot of things that we're dealing with and also have to do. And so it can feel like spending time with kids is like another thing you have to check off your list, which is not the way you want to approach it. But one of the things she suggested was just simply getting interested in what your kids are already doing, because that can feel a little less jarring of like if the kid is used to, lots of screen time and you're just kind of doing your thing and then all of a sudden you want to like be hiking and outside, and that can be a little much. But to just ask, okay, what is this video game you're playing? How does it work? Can we create a character for me that maybe you walk me through how to play it? And I thought that was such a interesting take on meeting kids where they're at, but then also sneakily making it meaningful time.
Absolutely. And, let your kids create your avatar. Let them decorate you, make you look the way they think you want to look.
Right.
And they'll have fun with it. Let them give you a fun name. 2 things that I tried to do when my girls were little, and they are adults now, but I'm so glad and I wish I would have done more of. Number 1, the library.
Mm.
We would go to the summer reading club all the time, and the girls always knew, even if they weren't big readers or into reading, library is a safe space to go.
Mm.
And it's funny, as adults, when we will go to a new city or whatever, they'll be like, Mom, you want to hit the library?
Oh.
And it'll be, maybe we're going to go in and we're going to look at the bulletin boards to see what's going on around town in that place we're visiting. It's a quiet space. They usually have like a really good vibe, and they've got bathrooms. And it's like, hey, visit your local library when your kids are little, and the library will become a place that they like, that they cherish.
Love that.
The other thing, I will never forget, the first time I did this, had both kids buckled up in the back seat, and they thought we were going to daycare again, or I was going to work and they were tagging along, which is how I played a lot of their time. And instead I was like, where do you guys want to go today? And they were like, what? And I'm like, I want you to name park, and I want to know, and a place you want for ice cream, and some place you want to just go walk around and check out. And they were shocked. And it was an unstructured day, and they dictated the day. I tried to do that at least a couple times throughout the summer, throughout winter break. And it was one of those things where it's like, my kids will talk about it now. They're like, do you remember that time you told us we could go to any park we wanted, and you drove like a half hour and we went to that park with that big slide? And I'm like, I don't even remember, but they do.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I'd like to challenge families. Look at your kid one of these days on summer break and say, what are we doing today? And let your kid put the plan together. And you can put some rails on it. You can say, okay, we're not going to spend $100, but we are going to spend 20. So what do you want to do? You want to go roam Meyer and you want to push the cart and be in charge? Let's go. But give kids some power in how you spend your time together. And it's going to be very freeing and enlightening.
I feel like that's a great gateway into some cool conversations.
Totally. And let your kid be the boss. What do you want to talk about? I have a friend who does this thing with her grandkids. And since they were babies, every birthday, they would pick the one thing or the sixth thing. And I just saw her grandson celebrated his 18th birthday, and he got to do 18 things. And so he got a guitar lesson. They went to a record store. He wanted a malt. And so she posted these adventures, and it was like a 4-day process to get all 18 things in. But I'm like, what a gift. What a gift she gave that grandkid, that on your birthday or around your birthday, it's you and me time, and you're the boss.
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
I love that. So what would you say are your 3 things that you would want to encourage listeners and how they can make a difference where they live with the people in their life?
Number 1, be kind. Be kind to your kids. It's easy to be kind when you're outside your home. It's hard to be kind when you're inside because that's where we let our guard down.
Yeah.
Your kids live in a rough world. Be kind. And kids, be kind to your parents. They're doing the best they can. Guide them a little bit. They want to be there for you. But if you're being nasty all the time, it's a little harder.
Yeah.
So let's be kind. My second one, small acts make a big difference. I meet a lot of people who are like, you tell these stories of all these people doing really big things and I can't do anything, or I don't have the resources, or I don't have the connections. And I'm like, you know what? Do what you can where you are. And it's those simple things like, put that little tiny library out in your front yard and fill it with your kids' old books. Okay. You're like, really? Yeah, really. Because you're giving the gift of literacy to a kid who might not have access to a book. You get an extra coupon to go to Craig's Cruisers. Share it with a friend, man, because you know what? Your friend may have never had the chance to bring their children to someplace like that. Those little acts make a big difference. And then my last one is kind of my life proverb. You've probably heard me say it before, but do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it is within your power to act. And so often it'll be like, if I had 2 minutes, I could have done blah, blah. Nope. It's within my power to act. Do it. And I think it's important for us as parents to remember that, as grandparents and as kids. And when corporate America steps up and organizations like Wedgwood step up and say, it is within our power to act, and they make it happen, that's how change happens. And it's really exciting to see all of us come together and say, you know what, we can make a difference in these areas. And then we can come together and all make a difference. It's a big deal.
And you are a great example of bringing people together to give them an opportunity to act when it is within their power.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for all that you do for kids and families in West Michigan and the ways you support organizations like Wedgwood and all the other incredible places in West Michigan. It is so great that I got to have this coffee break conversation with you today.
Thank you for letting me sit on the other side of the microphone. And you know what? I want to just take a moment to say hats off to Wedgwood, to the entire team here. It is a huge team that truly jumps in and does the hard work in this town. And I always tell people, I don't know what we would be as a community without Wedgwood. So thank you.
Thank you. That, for the record, that was unprompted.
Totally unprompted.
Did not ask Miranda
but something
to say
that's
that.
on my heart, and I want to say it.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see more from Miranda and access the How's It Really Going resources on the Wood TV8 website. And Wedgwood Christian Services is here to help if you or a loved one could use additional mental health support. You can check out our website, wedgwood.org, or see all the links in the episode description. Stay hopeful, stay helpful, and let's meet for a coffee break soon.